Okay, so tonight we're going to dedicate our class to our birthday boy, Mazel Tov Yosef. That's you. If the first 50 years were so geschmack, so full of lazat, can you imagine the next 50? More lazat. Can you imagine? Double lazat. Tonight we're going to learn how to count each moment and to make each moment count. To try to develop a sense of the value of time so that we could be more on top of our moments and to make our moments count. Because since time is such a precious thing, so Hashem makes the world in a way that whatever's more precious has more of a challenge. And the most precious gift that Hashem gave us is time. As Rebbe once said, people say time is money. Rebbe said, I say time is life. So because it's such a precious thing, therefore there's more of a challenge and we're more prone to misuse it. And we're going to learn about how different components of what time really is and how to be sensitive to it and to channel it in the right direction. So I'm going to begin with a quote from the Rebbe from the Hayom Yom, the beginning of the Iyar. The Rebbe writes that at farbrengen, during the days of Sfira, someone said to my father, meaning the Rebbe Rashab, the Alter Rebbe's chassidim were always keeping count. My father took a great liking to this saying, and he commented, this idea characterizes what a Jew's service has to be. The hours must be counted hours. Then the days will be counted days. When a day passes, one should know what he has accomplished and what remains yet to be done. In general, one should always see to it that tomorrow should be much better than today. There was a boy who was complaining to the Rebbe that he has all these strange thoughts coming to his mind, all these strange things coming to his head, and he can't get control of it. What should he do? So he asked the Rebbe for bracha, and the Rebbe told him what he should do is, he should be more careful when he sets his watch. He shouldn't set his watch according to the time of the church. Apparently this boy was listening to the church bells on the Union in Brooklyn, and that's how he's setting his watch. So it's the definition of how we define time is not just the passing of time, but even the way we look at time makes time different. What's the very first mitzvah God gave the Jewish people? The very first mitzvah is to make a calendar. Why at the first mitzvah? The first mitzvah is to sanctify time. If time is valuable, then you can do something in time. If time isn't valuable, then it doesn't matter what you're doing. So the very first mitzvah that Hashem gave us is to sanctify time, that time counts. That's the very first mitzvah. Once time counts, so then it matters what you do. There was this Rosh Hashiva who made this great event. He invited his friends, he invited his family, he invited an orchestra, and he made some dino ribs from Izzy's, and it was fantastic. And what was this great event? He didn't tell anybody. This is a secret. It's a personal celebration. I'll share with you at the event. What was this personal celebration? He shared with everybody. You know what happened? You have no idea. Today I finished the entire Talmud, and those who knew him well were like, big deal. It's not your first time. It's not your second time. Not your third time finishing Talmud. So you finished the whole Talmud. So what? So he explained, I finished the whole Talmud in dead moments. Which means, you know how you're waiting for a bus? Okay, fine, no one remembers that. You ever heard of a bus? Okay. So, used to be, so people are waiting for an Uber, right? Waiting for Uber.
New generation.
So in all these moments that you're waiting for something, all those things, he used up those moments, not in his regular course of studying, the hours he dedicated to Torah study, but in all those moments he decided to learn Gemara, and he managed to finish the whole entire Talmud just in those dead moments. So that's why this conclusion of Talmud is more precious to him, because it's something that he did in time that wasn't a dedicated time. It was in a dead moment. The Chofetz Chaim has an amazing teaching about time. Chofetz Chaim says, time is like a postcard. You ever heard of a postcard? Okay. So when you write a postcard, what happens? You start writing and say, I'm waiting for the flight. The flight's supposed to leave in an hour. So I had a great time in Italy. And you want to write more, but when you write more, it's already used up the main body of the page, and you start writing on the side and the corners, and you start trying to write smaller and squeak some more information in. So Chofetz Chaim said the same is also in life. You're younger, you think you have all the time in the world, and you get older, you discover that I should have done something with my life. And so you start squeezing stuff in because because in the beginning of life, you have so much to do, you have so much time, and then later on you realize that how much more you could have accomplished. There's a similar reason, by the way, why we count the Omer. We count the Omer, even though we're counting towards Shavuos, we count 1, 2, 3, 4, not 50, 49, 48. One of the reasons we don't count 50, 49, 41, we don't count down, is because if we would count down, we would think, we have so much time to prepare for Shavuos. So we have 50 days. So who needs to prepare for Shavuos? Therefore, specifically, our method of counting is upwards and not downwards, because if we would count downwards, we would think, we have plenty of time. To me, there's many things that in the dictionary that may be in the Webster's dictionary, but they're I don't know how to explain this, but basically, to me, the Rebbe invented the concept of a moment. For me, there's no such the idea of what a moment really is something that the Rebbe revealed, and the Rebbe in many sichas and audiences and letters, he explained and categorized what each moment really means, what a moment is. But before we get to the Rebbe's explanation, just a simple idea about longevity, about life. Medrash Shmuel says that time is something you can never return. Time is something which passes, you can never get the time back. Unlike anything else that you take from someone, there's a way to give it back. Time is something which never comes back. And he says, how can you merit to have a long life? Of course, we don't know the ways of Hashem, but one thing he says is like this. He says, if you use what Hashem gives you, use a gift that Hashem gives you, so he gives you more of it. He gives a parable. Medrash Shmuel, the student of Arizal, he said that if a king was once approached by this guy who wanted to start a business, and the king says, I'll help you out, and he gives him a sack of gold. Here, start a business. The guy wastes the money, and he asks the king for another sack of gold. The king says, I'm sorry, I gave you one sack, and I thought you could do it, and you wasted it. Similarly with time, when a Jew uses the time Hashem gives him properly, so Hashem gives him more time. And it's, by the way, it's not just in longevity, it's also in the quality of each day. There's an interesting letter of the Rebbe. Someone writes to the Rebbe, he had this custom of saying the entire Tehillim every day. So he wrote to the Rebbe, he wants to stop doing this custom because it takes up a lot of time. Some people in our shul takes them 6 hours to say the Tehillim. Some people takes 8 hours to say the Tehillim. They say in yeshiva, how long does it take to finish a page of Gemara? Depends what you learn the Gemara with. You learn Gemara with Rashi, it take you 2 hours. Learn Gemara with Tesis, it take you 4 hours. Learn Gemara with Dabat, they'll never finish the page of Gemara. You know what Dabat is? Dabat is Dvarim Metelin. Words never. Dvarim Metelin doesn't end. So it's not. So this person asked the Rebbe, "What should I do? I want to learn. I want to say the whole Tehillim every day. I used to do that, but I want to stop because it's taking up so much time. So what should I do?" So Rebbe answered a very interesting thing. Rebbe said that time is something that God gives us, and therefore the quality of time, the impact you have, and the time that you have, is based upon how God. In other words, sometimes you have a few moments, you're more successful in those few moments than in a much larger amount of time. So you can't dedicate time to something and think that this is a time that will take, and it might take less, it might take more. And the Rebbe said that by you saying Tehillim, that's something you're doing already, that's what you should keep on doing. That's what you should keep on doing, because that's something you're doing already, and that's something which if you're doing this already, this is what your neshama needs to be doing. And what about the other things you want to accomplish? They'll be accomplished also, because you won't be able to accomplish them more by saying less Tehillim. Because the time that you have is something that Hashem gives you, and the impact of time, the power of the time, is based upon Hashem's empowering those moments. You accomplish much more if you're doing it the way God says to do it. Just very simply. Abai and Rava, the Gemara says Abai and Rava were cousins, and they were Kohanim. They came from the family of Eli HaKohen. And the family of Eli HaKohen was known that they all died young. They all died by the age of 18. So when they became Bar Mitzvah, Bais Bezalel are known to every Jewish child studying the Gemara. You can't turn 10 pages in the Gemara without coming across a Bais Bezalel. So when they turned Bar Mitzvah, Rava said to himself, I know, Hashem, you gave me life, I'm going to dedicate my life to Torah study. And by that decision, he merited to live twice as long as expected. He managed to live till 40 years old. And Abaya, at his bar mitzvah, made a similar decision. He made a decision not just to learn Torah, but to be kind. He says, God, I know you don't just want us to fill our time with Torah study, you want us to fill our time with kindness. And he made a decision to fill his time with Torah and kindness, and he merited to live triple as long as expected. He lived to the age of 60 years old. There's, on a similar scale, the impact of time. The Tzemach Tzedek says that when you do someone a favor, it makes your heart and mind 1,000 times more pure. 1,000 times. Tzemach Tzedek said it's a literal expression, 1,000 times. And the Rebbe said, what is the meaning of literal? What that means is, if it takes you 1,000 minutes to think about something, to come to a conclusion, it will take you one. So the time that you're giving the other person and being kind to the other person, instead of that taking away your time, that will make things so much faster, so much quicker. So kind of like Einstein's theory, that where time depends on the observer. So similarly, Yiddishkeit Torah tells us that time is relative. You could accomplish a lot in a short amount of time, based if you're doing someone a favor. That will give your Torah study a whole different level of achievement. But on the other hand, if you waste time, shalom, so then what does the Gemara say? The Gemara says that yain shel tzarayim, sichas elodim, shein shel shachar, sin zamelim. It means sleeping in the morning, drinking wine in the afternoon, and talking like a child removes a person from the world. Which means that if you're wasting your time, you're sleeping in the morning every morning, and you're going into the afternoon, you're walking on Beverly Drive, and you're having a wine in the middle of the afternoon. So, as you can see in every day Beverly Drive. So, and you're talking shtusim, you're talking foolish things. So Rabbi Yehuda says, so it's not that Hashem's taking away your time is already not time. Rabbi Yosef is a very interesting parable about time. He said this guy comes to the city, and he just a visitor to the city, and he doesn't have much to do there, and there was no Disneyland, so he went to the cemetery and see if any tzaddikim buried in the cemetery. He comes to the cemetery, and he sees it has by every single tombstone, it has a number: 3, 4, 5 years old, 6 years old, 7 years old. So he is shocked, and he goes to the shul, and he expects to see in the shul like a bunch of little children. In this town, everyone's dying young. And he comes to the shul, and he sees the people, the older people, with long beards. What's going on? So he asks the rabbi. The rabbi tells him like this. See, this is how it works in our town. And the way it works in our town is like this. Everybody has a diary. At the end of the day, they look at their day, and they mark their diary to see if they fill their time up properly. If they do, they put a check. If they didn't, they write an X. So the Chevra Kadisha, the burial society, goes to everyone's diary at the end of their life, and they count up how many days that they have that were useful. So based upon how many useful days, that's how many years you lived. Those are the years that you really lived. It sounds very musardik, right? Sounds too negative, right? Everyone said that a clock is a silent musar zoger. It's always saying musar. The clock is always saying musar. I used to think the reason the clock is always saying musar is because always saying time is passing. But I just read it today again. That's not what it means. The clock is always working. The clock is always working. It's not moving, but it's always busy. So it reminds you you should be busy, always be moving. The Rebbe himself, you know how much Rebbe cherished time personally. The Rebbe, after his father passed away, the Rebbe davened on yard side before he became Rebbe, and he told the previous Rebbe how the yeshiva students are not davening exactly on time, and after his brother passed away, they're also davening for the whole year, and he had davened with the yeshiva students, and the previous Rebbe said to the hanhalas yeshiva, to those directing the yeshiva, that his moment, for him at 1 minute, is like a year. The Rebbe, a minute is like a year, so be very careful not to take up any of his time. The idea of time and the power of time we see in the mitzvah of ribis, mitzvah of taking interest. In general, the Torah has a more of a capitalist kind of form of economy. The socialist form of economy, where everyone contributes into one amount and the government divides the money among everyone, the Torah doesn't subscribe to that kind of economy. It doesn't really work. Why doesn't it work? It doesn't really work because man cares about himself. So man doesn't work for government. So the socialist form doesn't work. The Torah has a capitalist form. The capitalist form of economy also doesn't work so much well all the time, because the capitalist form of economy, people, you want to open up a cell phone store, you want to sell cell phones, okay, but in order for you to sell cell phones, you have to go to the people that sell cell phones, and they have already cornered the market, and then there's no, you have to find a niche. And to find a niche, well, you have to go to the people which already have already owned the market. Everyone in Israel is scared now because Amazon has made moves to move to Israel and to take over all these eat up all the small businesses in Israel. So the problem with the capitalism is it just goes on, and the people which made their place and they own the real estate, they own it now. So everyone else is like, okay, what do we do now? We're stuck. So the Torah is a generally capitalist kind of economy, but there's a couple of things in Torah that limit it. So it shouldn't be in a way of, as we say in Yiddish, achuk, or maybe Farsi, fine. Davar acher. So there, one of the mitzvahs in the Torah is the idea of ribis. Ribis means you can't take interest. This mitzvah of ribis is also associated with time. How so? What's the mitzvah of ribis? Mitzvah of ribis means that you can't lend money and take interest for it.
Does that only apply to money?
No, it doesn't only apply to money.
Everything.
You can't even borrow someone's car, and you give back the car, and the gas was empty. You let the question, you let it fill it back up with gas.
So a teacher can't give an assignment, and then he says if it's not filled out by the next day, it's
Definitely a nice try, but you might get it doubled on the spot when you ask the question. When the Gemara says, when the Torah says this law of ribis, the Torah says don't take ribis from your brother. Usually the Torah doesn't always use that word, but here the Torah is telling us why not? Why can't take ribis? You can't take interest because a person's stuck. They need a loan, so don't take advantage of their situation. They're your brother. But it's not just about the other person. The idea of taking interest means you're living off money that could, for your perspective, this money could be in the ground. You don't need this money. This money could be buried. This money is money it's past money. It's past earnings. You don't need it at all right now, and you're earning money from something that you've already gained. So you could, if you're living off interest, loans that you've lent with interest. So no reason for you to get up in the morning. You don't have anything to accomplish today. You already accomplished everything before. There's no reason for you to do something now because your money is already getting money. Your money is already invested. And it's different than stocks. Stocks, the Rebbe actually, many places, the Rebbe says that he doesn't advocate that people should go into stocks in general. Because people going into stocks and trading, they're constant anxiety, constant pressure. And I'll never forget, I once went into this office, Empire State Building, when I was studying yeshiva in 770. I used to go from door to door asking people to put on film. I walked into one office. Hey, anyone here Jewish? No response. Everyone's like stuck on the computer. Their eyes are glued to the computer. So I don't know whatever. Anyways, I asked again, and one guy just says, trading. What? Trading. Like, how dare you even think of talking to us right now? We're doing day trading. You're not allowed to, we're focused now.
You only had enough time to say the one word.
You would have said T if you could have. Okay.
Oh, it was in the middle of Amida.
Yeah.
It was bored.
Okay, so the idea of so Torah says there's actually a Jew who was running a bank in Eretz Yisrael, Rabbi Volpa, not a Lubavitcher Jew, but he was retired from his job, and as soon as he retired, he went to visit the Rebbe and asked for he's done with his job. He went to get on a pension, and he went to visit the Rebbe. When he came to visit the Rebbe said to him that he should continue working in the bank. He told the Rebbe, it's not that I'm taking off, I'm retiring. It's a mandatory. The bank says at this age you have to stop working. So what do you want me to do? The Rebbe just said, you should continue working. Like, do it anyway. So what am I supposed to do? When he got back to Israel, in the mail, there was a letter from the bank. We need just some senior supervisor or whatever it was. And the next 10 years of his life, he was alive and young because he was working again in the bank. So in general, just like the Torah doesn't subscribe to taking interest, the Torah doesn't subscribe to retiring. There's a Jew in Canada. There's a senator named Irving Gerstein. Huh? Gerstein. You know, he's not a senator anymore. He used to be a senator in Canada. Come, Eldad, the front row seats are the same price as back row seats. I want to tell you a story. Come here. Irving Gerstein, he visited the Rebbe. Listen to the story, Yosef. This story is for you. He visited the Rebbe. Why did he visit the Rebbe? He didn't want to. He was not a religious guy. He was not a religious guy at all, and he was very depressed. Why is he depressed? He was depressed because every time he had a birthday, he got depressed. So his wife told him that he has to go and get advice from this rabbi in New York. The rabbi in New York will give him advice. Go to him and he'll help him get out of his depression. So he told his wife, tell that rabbi when he needs advice, he'll come to me and I'll tell him advice. But his wife pushed him the way a Yiddish wife knows how to do, and she pushed him. He ended up going to New York, and he's at that time he was a successful businessman, a senator in Canada, and he comes into the private audience with the Rebbe, and the Rebbe, he came to some pretense. He didn't want to tell the Rebbe what was bothering him. He told the Rebbe that whatever pretense he told the Rebbe, and the Rebbe said to him, "What's bothering you?" So he told the Rebbe that he hasn't accomplished anything in life. He's already 50 years old. He hasn't accomplished anything in life, so he feels very depressed. Because every birthday I have, I feel depressed, and especially the round birthdays, like 20, 30, 40, 50, those are the worst. So I feel very down. So the Rebbe said to him, "Do you read the Bible?" He said, "Yes." The Rebbe said to him, "How old was Moses when he started his job?" He didn't know. The Rebbe said Moses was 80 years old when he started his job. How could it be that Moses starts his job at 80 years old? How could he take responsibility for all the Jewish people at 80 years old? So the Rebbe said, because Moses was a young man. What's the difference between a young man and an old man? A young man and an old man both ask questions. But a young man asks a different question than an old man. An old man asks a question, what have I done? A young man asks a question, what do I need to do? And Moses was a young man, and therefore he was able to take on this responsibility. So Irving Gersten took this very, very, very seriously. And slowly, Baruch Hashem, and Gesund, is still doing well. In fact, he called up the Rabbi Rav HaKotel, Eretz Yisrael. They should come to visit him for his 80th birthday because he's opening up a new newspaper in China at that age he's in. The Torah tells us to remember leaving Egypt every single day. Every day we're supposed to remember Egypt. What are we supposed to remember about? What are we supposed to think about when we remember leaving Egypt? When the day we left Egypt, it was the time. It was the time that it's time to go. We're free from Egypt. Every day the Torah is telling us to look at today as today is the time. Today is the time for Mashiach to come. Today is your moment. Just like you're supposed to. Some people think that special moments are Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, Simchas Torah, Shabbos, whatever. But the Torah tells us remember leaving Mitzrayim every single day. What the Torah is telling us with that is that you have to look at every day. This is a calling. Hashem is calling you now today, and He has something for you to do, and you're special. You have a reason to be. The Rebbe said once that all of time is like it's like a body of water, a lake, an ocean, and just like in each drop of water, the whole sun is reflected in each drop of water. So too, all of time is one continuum, one entity, and all of time has a purpose, and each moment reflects all of time. Each moment has a connection to all of time. So basically, in each moment you're in, whatever moment it is, that moment is part of the whole scheme of things of what time is all about. Your moment right now, this moment, is a drop of the ocean of time, and this ocean has a purpose. Each drop has a purpose. It reflects the whole sun. It reflects the whole purpose. It reflects Hashem's purpose of creation. And therefore, you can't say, I'll delay something till tomorrow. Why? Because Hashem creates the whole world every moment. So if today Hashem made the world, so today is something you have to do today. Tomorrow you can't do it anymore because tomorrow is a different world. And it's possible, the Rebbe said, that the spark of godliness, which is in the moment now, changes tomorrow. And therefore you cannot accomplish tomorrow. It has to be done today because today is Today is its moment. Just to conclude with one more story, because I see I'm putting some people to sleep, and I'll catch some more moments of sleep. Baruch Hashem. Last story. Famous stories like this. Nice essay. There was a group of Yidden who came to visit the Rebbe for Tishrei, and when they visited the Rebbe, they came to celebrate the whole Tishrei together with the Rebbe. And the end of Tishrei, they're in the 770 in Simchas Torah, and everyone's looking at their watch because they had to go to take a carriage flight. And it wasn't like today, you miss a flight, take the next flight, small fee. They missed a flight, they missed a flight. And the Rebbe's farbrengen is extending after Simchas Torah. And what are they going to do? So the Rebbe noticed what everyone was thinking, and the Rebbe said the following. The Rebbe said that once he was with his father-in-law, the Frierdiker Rebbe, and the Frierdiker Rebbe was at that time being pursued by the KGB, and the Frierdiker Rebbe sat down and was writing down these deep secrets of chassidus, deep, very intellectual concepts, and the Rebbe asked his father-in-law, it's true that the mind can control the heart, but so much? The mind can control the heart, fine, but so much? So the Frierdiker Rebbe said, the Rashba. The Rashba was a sage, was one of the Rishonim, one of the earlier commentators in the Talmud, who gave 3 lectures a day to gifted students who are known till today as students of the Rashba. One's class was given on response about questions that came up at that time. One class was on the Talmud in order, and one was in different subjects that were different subjects of the Talmud in depth. And the Rashba was a doctor, and he was an advisor to the king. And despite all and he was a community leader. And despite all these responsibilities, the Rashba took a walk every day for 15 minutes. How did Rashba have the time to go walk every 15 minutes? He had all these responsibilities on him. So the Rebbe said, because the Frierdiker Rebbe told the Rebbe, because the Rashba had success in time. What was his success? That wherever he was there completely. And because the Rashba had success in time, therefore he's able to find time to take a walk, and that's tzlacha b'zman. The bottom line is, my dear friends, is that every moment counts. To count each moment, and today is the day that Hashem announces to each of us. The fact that you woke up this morning means Hashem announced you matter. You have something to do, and if make each moment count by filling each moment. The Rebbe says is like a cup. It's a vessel, and it has to be full to the brim with all good stuff. There's a difference between thinking you're special or thinking you're plain. In Yiddish, in Hebrew, the word for plain is stam. The Torah says that Avram Avinu dug wells, and his son and all the wells were stuffed up by the Philistines. The Plishtim stuffed up all the wells. Avram digging wells means spiritually that the tzaddik of each generation tries to uncover each person through their shluchim, through their various ways, to bring out all the best in each of us. What covers that up? What prevents you from bringing out your best? Thinking that you are stam. You're just plain. You're just regular. If you think you're special, if you think that you have a reason to be, and Hashem is calling you today, I want you to leave Mitzrayim, I want you to do something, to bring Mashiach, to make something happen, then you have to do something today. Then it matters. But if you think it doesn't matter, then it doesn't matter if you learn, it doesn't matter if you daven, it doesn't matter if you tzedakah, it doesn't matter if you speak lashon hara, because it's just time. So therefore, the very first mitzvah Torah says is sanctify time. Realize that it's special, that God gave you a moment today, and there's a gift, and you can accomplish something. L'chaim, l'chaim, l'chaim.